Welcome back, Roster Wars, to United Nations Rookie Summit. I'm your host, Corbin, joined with my co hosts, Ross and Tyler. As always, we are breaking down the 2026 rookie class. For those who don't know, every about once a week, we go through and we take a position group. We break down the top 4 or 5 prospects in that group. We give you our rankings and we give you a sleeper for each position group, and we're going to kick it off this year with quarterbacks. We've got just a little more than 2 months left, or a little less than 2 months left into the NFL draft, which starts on April 23rd. So we're going to have to crank some of these episodes out so we can cover every position group. But before we really get into this year's class, we like to have Tyler go and take a look back at last year's rankings and sleeper picks. So Tyler, why don't you go ahead and share what the boys came up with last year?
Well, last year we did the Shadir Sanders, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, and Joe Milrow. Not sure why we did Jalen Milrow. Sorry, it's still early in the morning for me, guys. So
you're confusing him with your guy Joe Milton. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's.
I was wondering.
Exactly. So as for rankings, we kind of disagreed quite a bit here. Well, me and Corbin did anyway. So let's get into the rankings for Corbin. He was a diehard Sanders fan, and he went Sanders, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, and Jalen Milrow. All right, so he was wrong, kind of right, wrong, all right. Then we're
not wrong yet.
Yeah. Ross went Cam Ward, Shadir Sanders, Jackson Dart, Milrow, and Ewers. And then I went Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Milrow, Sanders, and then Ewers.
Are you taking the victory lap on that because Sanders got drafted in the 5th round? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, of course.
Fade and Shudasi.
You knew, you had the foresight. You knew that everyone would collude together to
well,
get
going
Sanders
through the stats of these 5 guys. I mean, Milrow didn't play. He rushed the ball like 3 times, but that's about it.
Super Bowl, though.
Ewers played 4 games. He had 622 yards, 66.3 passer percent, 3 TDs, 3 interceptions. He had an 85.5 rating. But Ewers was drafted 231st overall in the 7th round by Miami. So he kind of did what he was expected for where he was drafted. Jackson Dart, we all know his story. 14 games, 2,272 yards, 63.7 completion, 15 TDs, 5 interceptions. Had the best rating out of all these QBs at 91.7. He was, of course, taken in the 1st round, 25th overall by the Giants. Cam Ward was taken 1st overall. He played all 17 games, 3,169 yards, 59.8 completion, 15 TDs, 7 interceptions, an 80.2 rating. And yeah, he went 101 to Tennessee. And then Shadir Sanders, who everybody was like, oh, he's going in the top 5. Well, he went 8 games, 1,400 passing yards, exactly 1,400, which is kind of strange. A 56.6 percentage, 7 TDs, 10 interceptions in 8 games. It's not good. A 68.1 rating.
Oh,
144th overall in the 5th round by the shitty Browns. Yeah. So I'm going to say, even though Ewers, only played 4 games, Sanders still was the worst out of all of these guys. Even Milrow, because Milrow didn't actually do anything to screw himself over. But So that's a little fun. And we all know, yeah, Sanders, well, he's going to get beat out by Deshaun Watson this year, so it doesn't even matter. Now our sleepers. So me and Corbin really we dug deep for our sleepers this year, and I went with Will Howard, who got injured right away, missed all preseason, had old man Rodgers in front of him, had old dumbass Rudolph in front of him, and didn't see the field, but he did get drafted 185th in the 6th round by the Steelers. So he did get drafted before Quinn Ewers. But yeah, we'll see what Pittsburgh's doing with their situation there. I don't have Will Howard on my roster anymore for RW. He got poached, so somebody else likes him too. Corbin took Kyle McCord, who was drafted 181st overall in the 6th round by the Eagles, but is now with the Packers. He didn't see the field, just like Will Howard. And Ross picked Tyler Shough. Now, the guy was drafted 40th overall in the 2nd round by the Saints. He played 11 games, 2,384 yards, a 67.6 percentage, 10 TDs, 6 interceptions, and a 91.3 rating, just below Jackson Dart for the 2nd best rating of these QBs. And way mountains above Shedeur Sanders.
Mountains.
He's a Pepsi Offensive Rookie of the Year as well, so I think that's
right.
Pretty good sleeper. I'm taking the W on that one.
We probably should have reviewed him and not sleepered him.
We do this 2 months before the draft. At the time, no one was thinking Tyler Shough was going to be a 40th overall pick and then start however many games and then become Offensive Rookie of the Year. So I'll take the wins where I can get them because I've got a funny feeling the sleepers coming up are not quite as good.
No.
Yeah, Shedeur was a miss. I mean, I don't think anybody saw that 5th round plummet in the draft happening. But I mean, he did have that one game against Tennessee where he kind of lit him up. I mean, everything else, don't look at that. But
yeah,
that
Tennessee.
One game that he had,
he lit up the worst team in the league. Congratulations. Didn't they lose?
I don't know what happened in that game, but you know what? We don't need to add any other stuff on here. He's getting beaten against Deshaun Watson. He's got year 2 to prove himself. I mean, Cleveland's just a dumpster fire. Jackson Dart is the one that, I mean, I drafted him in our Roster Wars League, so I'm happy with that. After I saw the Shedeur fall, I didn't really want to touch him. I think it was a lot of, he kind of blew it in the interviews. Had that little bit of like NIL cockiness that Shedeur, or the Deion Sanders cockiness to him, and it didn't work well because he just didn't have the play to support it. So, yeah, I can't really explain the fall, but it is what it is. Quarterback's a really tough position to dissect and to predict, and obviously everyone, including all these self-called experts, got it wrong. They didn't see him falling into the 5th round. So, I mean, Tyler seems to be the only one who really had him pegged correctly. He put him right there with Quinn Ewers.
Sometimes being a hater works out just perfectly for you.
Yep, exactly. You stumble into it. Well,
But there's a good chance that Shedeur Sanders is better than 3 of the quarterbacks that we're reviewing today.
It's true. I mean, I think Shedeur outperformed his draft stock more than Cam Ward did, and they're bringing in everybody that they can to turn that around. They got Brian Daboll at offensive coordinator now, new head coach. I'm sure. I mean, they could potentially be picking like a Carnell Tate in the draft, get him a solid bona fide number 1 receiver. So they're going to be building around him. I don't know if the Browns are going to be doing the same thing. I mean, yeah, it's not a good situation. I'm not betting on Shedeur over Cam Ward or Jackson Dart this year, or even Tyler Shough. Tried to poach him, but just didn't work out, unfortunately. He'll be on the Pigskins roster another year at least, or 3. I think I had him for. Too bad. But yeah, I don't think my sleeper this year is going to be much better. It's just going to be cross my fingers and hope I look like a genius next year, looking like Ross.
Yeah, this year's class, if we're pivoting towards this year's class, it's definitely a lot thinner than last year, like you talked about. Obviously, we talked about maybe what 4 guys, or I suppose 3 plus Shadur, who went in 3 guys and we went in the first round. We're definitely not going to see that this year, are we?
Yeah, I mean, you look at, today we're going to be talking about Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeyer, and Carson Beck. If you look at Nussmeyer and Beck, and, those were 2 guys that people thought could potentially be the number 1 pick in the draft. Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller out of Penn State. Like, those are 2 other guys that everyone kind of assumed would be in that number 1 overall conversation, and they just fallen off the map. I mean, I'm sure you've looked at a mock draft by now. None of those guys are in the first round conversation. It's all around Fernando Mendoza. Some people have Ty Simpson sneaking into the first round. I mean, we'll leave that to the teams to actually decide where these guys end up going. But a lot of guys got a lot of hype, but a lot of guys regressed based on the 2025 season. So we could kick it off with Fernando Mendoza, the bright spot on today's conversation. He's a 22-year-old junior coming out of Indiana, transferred from Cal to Indiana. So he has, only just that one solid starting season where he obviously went on to win the Heisman and the national championship. He was okay at Cal, but nothing special at all. He wasn't on anyone's radar until he transferred to Indiana. So he's measuring in at 6'4.5", 236 pounds, 9.5-inch hands. He passes the hand test. He has that prototypical NFL build. Just a little background on him. He's a 3-star recruit out of Miami, the city. And then he had committed to Yale before he eventually flipped to Cal. He was a 72nd ranked quarterback in his class. So, nobody really thought much of him, but that kind of just goes to show how these rankings, they really don't mean much. It's a decent indicator, but, these 3 stars can turn into the number 1 overall pick with one good season. But I mentioned he went on to win the Heisman. He beat Ohio State for the Big Ten title. Then he goes to play Alabama in the Rose Bowl, beats the hell out of them. They beat Oregon in the semifinal. And then he had the run in the national championship to secure Indiana with their first national title. So, I mean, that's 4 big programs, 4 of the best teams in the country that, you line them up and Fernando Mendoza has knocked them down. And in Ohio State, Oregon, and Alabama, he really put on display, why he should be that number 1 pick. Miami, he didn't have a crazy, sexy passing game, but when it mattered most, he took the ball into the end zone and put Indiana up, giving Carson Beck the ball back with a chance to win. But, he did enough to seal the deal for that team. So last year he had 72% completion, 3,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions to go with 25 sacks. He also had 276 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns to go with that. And then the year before in 2024 at Cal, he had 68% completion, just over 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 picks, 41 sacks. He was running the ball a little bit more planned, as a designed runner, I guess. 105 yards rushing and 1 touchdown at Cal, so not as efficient. He's not a scrambling quarterback, but he does have that ability. I think he kind of compares like body-wise to Josh Allen, he doesn't quite have that speed. He's not, quite the same dual threat, but he absolutely can run. I think that's what stands out the most is his ability to navigate in the pocket. So I've already kind of talked enough. I'll give you guys a chance to share your thoughts on him and I can dive back in. What do you think about Fernando Mendoza, Ross?
Yeah, well, you set the table well. I think the number 1 word that is used to describe him is polished. Like he operates at such a high level for a college quarterback. Like his decision making, his operation of the offense, it's all very buttoned up, and he makes the right read, he makes the right throw. His mechanics are very good as well. It's all very consistent. And he's so accurate as well. He's a very accurate thrower, all levels of the field. And you see that most on his his back shoulder throw. It's his signature move as his back shoulder throw to Elijah Surratt. And I think he's got a good arm as well. You can see him put the zip on the ball on those far hash back shoulder throws. And he's got a nice deep ball as well. Like when he's allowed to throw it, like a lot of the offense was, there's read options, and you specifically mentioned as well the championship game where it was a little bit more short stuff. But he can uncork it, and he does have a good deep ball, and he gives his receivers a chance as well to make a play. And that's because he knows he's got like the man coverage, the DB's got his back to him, and he knows if he throws it, it can only be a good thing for the offense rather than a potential turnover. And again, you mentioned the improvement throughout the year. And talking about the QB class in general, I think you talked about guys who were projecting to be like first round picks in 2026. Every single one of them had a terrible year and just went downwards. But Mendoza kept ascending, kept going up. And throughout the season as well, he kept improving. So about the halfway point of the season, you're thinking, obviously, Indiana are undefeated. He's having a great year. But then this is when the hard games come, and how does he react to that? And I'm sure we'll talk about that with someone like Ty Simpson, for example. But Mendoza reacted very, very well, and I thought his best games were against the tougher opponents, and particularly the game against Miami. Like they've got a ferocious pass rush, like two first-round defensive ends, and I seen him making decisions quicker because he knew he didn't have as much time because they were going to be on him really quickly. In other games, when he had a lot of time, because his offensive line's so good, time in the pocket to just stay there as long as he can. But he was making quick decisions, and he can hang in the pocket and take a hit as he throws, and it doesn't affect his accuracy because of his build as well. He's like a really, really tough player. If I was to sort of hop onto more of the negative side of things, I think I would sort of disagree with you, Corbin, in terms of his athleticism. I think he does have like functional athleticism and he can scramble. And obviously, we've seen it with the final play or the important play in the national championship. But I think his athleticism comes from reading the defense. So he dropped back. It was a QB draw. He seen he had open space and he was able to take advantage of that. But that's rather than him being creative and like twitchy athleticism, if that makes sense. Like he can take what the defense is giving him and he'll pick up that and he'll pick up a first down on third and long or whatever like that. But I don't see him being as creative in the pocket, like making a guy miss, rolling out and putting a throw down the field or something. It's all very in rhythm of the offense and making good decisions and throwing it away rather than maybe being a bit creative and seeing the sort of Caleb Williams-esque stuff where he escapes a rusher and makes a big play downfield. So that would maybe limit his ceiling for me, and especially in fantasy football when we're talking about rushing ability and making those big plays. Maybe doesn't a slight thought in my mind as well, where he just doesn't have that high floor as a rusher.
Mhm.
So I think he's a great passer. Of course, I mean, you're not going to go 101 if you don't have an arm. But I disagree with you, Ross. If you look back to the tape when he was at Cal, he did a lot of like design runs because of his athleticism. I think that he's kind of calm to like Bo Nix, where he can do like he can run, he can make guys miss. I think he's tough, and he's by far the best quarterback in this class. Like it's, the only thing I noticed was when I was reading is a lot of people said that sometimes he locks in on his target and he stares him down too much. So that's something they got to fix. And then when you're talking about scrambling, there are tendencies for his footwork to kind of get tangled up there. But no, I think he's gonna go to the Raiders, and I hope they don't ruin him. I hope they get him an offensive line, and I think Tom Brady's gonna tutor him, and he's just happy that he's not going to the Jets.
Yeah,
Back to the
definitely.
Jets.
He's in a better spot than the what's his name, the Oregon quarterback who didn't go out.
Don't move, yeah.
Yeah.
Who is that again?
I can't. Dante Moore.
Yeah, Moore.
Yeah. Nah, you'll get your quarterback soon, Ross. Don't worry. Aaron Glenn will turn it around. But Ross, I like what you said about functional athleticism. But I just want to be clear. I don't think he's a dual threat quarterback. Tyler mentioned, he did a lot more designed runs at Cal, but you didn't really see that as much at Indiana. And when I say like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, I mean these are two MVP Hall of Fame type guys. Like I'm just really kind of comparing him in terms of like body composition. He's tall, he's a bigger dude, he's tough to bring down. I think he kind of falls between like a Ben Roethlisberger and a Josh Allen because he doesn't, he's not going to be trying to run the ball. But if it calls for it, he's able to do it. He's not going to have that quick twitch, make guys miss, but he he is going to be tough to bring down just because of his size. So I do think that is something that is a positive to his game. I don't think he has zero rushing capability whatsoever. I think it's going to give you some solid fantasy contributions, but not much. He'll be maybe have 1 or 2 runs and a touchdown here and there. Maybe he has like a 10, 15-yard scramble once a game or something like that. But I don't think he's going to be running the ball like 4 or 5 times. I don't think the Raiders are going to use him as a designed runner in their system. That's not his game. When it comes down to it, he's a mobile pocket passer. He has the ability to stand in the pocket, deliver strikes. He's got that big arm. He's accurate. He's got touch at all 3 levels, short, intermediate, and deep ball. He has really good ball placement with his receivers, depending on the route. His pre-snap vision, I think it's nice, but it also hurts him in a lot of ways because Tyler had mentioned that, he likes to lock in on that primary target. And his pre-snap vision helps him understand what coverage a defense is in. But if it's a disguised coverage, that could make things problematic for him when he moves on to the NFL. Another thing that I saw was more of a negative is Curt Cignetti's system is very quarterback friendly. It allows him to go after that first read. He doesn't necessarily have to go through his second, third, fourth progression before making a decision. So Indiana made things a little bit easier on him. But I mean, you look at the talent, the arm, the accuracy, the brains, he has all that. But one thing we haven't really talked about is he's just an overall solid guy, like a good leader. Teammates love him. His personality is pretty infectious. He's not swearing. He's just a really genuinely nice guy. And a lot of times I like my quarterback to have that edge to him a little bit, a little bit of that cockiness. But I mean, he's just a clutch performer, just a super nice guy, like somebody that, your organization would be proud to say, this is our number 1 overall pick. This is the guy who is representing our franchise. So I think he deserves that number 1 pick. Obviously, even with 101s, it's a roll of the dice. It's about a 50-50 chance that they're boom or bust. But I think that he's got all the talent, and I think that he has the intangibles that a lot of teams will be looking for.
So when you say he doesn't swear, it's like, does that mean like, is he like just
says what the flip?
The occasional shit and fuck,
no.
Or is he just like straight up like gog geez nabbit dung ding dung like Philip Rivers style?
Yep, dang nabbit. He's like the flipping defense. They had us instead of fucking defense. That's the kind of guy he is. I mean, you could say it's a little corny, and I do think it is, but he is just like a nice guy. Like you can tell it in his interviews. His teammates love him. It's just who he is. I mean, I can't blame a guy for that. I would like a little more edge. Like I like that Baker Mayfield kind of cockiness, but we'll talk about Carson Beck too. I don't want it to swing too far to that side. So there's a very fine line, but he's a good guy. He's not ever going to get in trouble. He's going to be, somebody that, kids can look up to as a leader, all that kind of stuff that teams do covet in a way. They don't want their quarterback in the press making headlines for all the wrong reasons. He's not going to be that guy. He's just going to, he's mentally strong. He's going to grind, and he's going to focus on making the Raiders the best team possible.
Yeah, it's funny because we sort of know his landing spot already. So he's going to the Raiders. He's got Clint Kubiak, who's tends to be a QB-friendly offense as well. And then he doesn't have an offensive line yet hopefully there's maybe some improvement there just by better coaching and overall. And we've obviously got free agency and the draft to come as well. He's got Brock Bowers to throw to, but not much else at wide receiver. So how do you guys see the sort of landing spot of the Raiders? Like, to me, it could be better, but I like pairing him with Kubiak. I think you need play calling, offensive line, and weapons, and he's definitely got at least one of the three, maybe one and a half if you consider Brock Bowers as well.
Yeah.
Well, the Raiders are like, the thing about it is a lot of these guys, they're coming into situations not like lately where the QB, like the QB's coming in and the coach is on his way out, you know?
Yeah.
And then the coach is like, hey, young guy, I need you to save my job. So do things, you know, like that you need to work on, but be better immediately. Whereas with Kubiak just starting there, Mendoza coming in, they're coming in together. So there's going to be time to work on them. I hear that they might be, first they were getting rid of Geno Smith, and now there's talk that they're going to keep him so that he can help mentor Mendoza. I don't think they need a mentor because they have Tom Brady there. But I think it's a great spot for them. Of course, they need better wide receivers.
They need a lot.
And yeah, it's funny that every team, when they suck every year, it's like that team needs an offensive line. It's like, you know, the Patriots sucked. They finished third last. They needed an offensive line. The Jets always need an offensive line. You know, Chicago Bears needed an offensive line. Bears went out last year, got an offensive line, better coaching. And the Patriots did the same thing, got an offensive line, better coaching. So I think we don't know what Kubiak is as a head coach, but we're going to assume it's better coaching. So now we just got to see if they get that offensive line in the draft and help a young guy out.
Yeah. Yeah, because, you know, I say that I think that Mendoza is mobile in the pocket, but I mean, you look at the sack numbers and he takes a lot of sacks. So if you don't have an off, like, you know, he might be strong and able to shrug off like an arm tackle. But ultimately, if you've got defenders flying right at you, your first read's not there, he's taking a sack. You know, he's not able to avoid, you know, immense pressure. So, you know, that is a bit of a concern. I like Kubiak as the coach there, but like you said, Tyler, they've got a lot of work to do. I mean, the Raiders are picking first overall for a reason. I think Fernando Mendoza is, you know, a good step in the right direction for them, but they've got a lot of work to do if they're going to be a competitive team. If they're going to be a playoff team. I mean, that division, it's tough. You got the Broncos, Chargers, and the Chiefs, you know, 2 out of the 4 teams being playoff teams, and we all know who the Chiefs are. You know, so it's not an easy division. They need wide receivers. Brock Bowers can't do it all. They need an offensive line to protect them. There's rumors about Max Crosby getting traded, so their defense is going to be, you know, potentially restarted too. And even if Max Crosby stays, you know, he's not happy. So I don't think that, you know, long term the Raiders defense is in a good spot. But you look at like the Giants and the leaps and bounds they were able to make. You know, they've got what's his face, the Penn State edge rusher,
Carter,
3rd overall. Yeah, Abdul Carter. And then they move up to go and get Jackson Dart. And then they get my guy Cam Scattaboo. And you look at just those 3 guys and you see all the excitement that Giants fans in the NFL is aware of how good that team is and the potential that they have. Like, if you just get like 1-2 hits, like it could take your team from being like the bottom of the barrel in the NFL to, oh my God, like this team could be something next year. So I think the Raiders
next year
are
they've four wins this year, so it's definitely a projection still with the Giants. I'll say that.
But there's a lot of hype around the Giants. You know what I mean? Like when Jackson Dart gets a full year, Cam Scattaboo's back. You know, there's a lot of aspirations for that team. I think a lot of people think that they're going to take a jump. I don't see the Raiders doing that. I think they're going to suck again this year. They're going to be picking, you know, top 5 in the draft. they've got a lot of work to do. There's more than just, one or two holes they need to fill. They've got a plethora of needs.
The NFL is a lot about coaching, and the hype around the Giants is, you're going from Dayball to Harbaugh. It's a huge jump, right? So that's why, like, Giants have been stockpiling top first round guys for years. Now they got the guy to put it together. That's where the hype is.
I
Raiders.
just like on record
I like how
that I'm pausing putting the brake on the Giants hype. I just want that on record. That I'm putting the brakes on the Giants hype before anyone.
We'll hype up the Jets one day. Don't worry. Someday when their coach stays awake. No, I like how you brought up the conference that he plays in, like the division, because I believe 2 of those 4 teams that he's gonna face a lot are like are they not top 5 defense? Like, where did I know Broncos were in there?
Broncos and Chargers are right up there.
Yeah,
Chargers were up there, right? And then like KC's no slouch on defense. I think they took a step back and they're getting a little old, but he's going to be going into a situation where he's just facing top NFL defenses for half the year, pretty much. Like, it's not going to be fun.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, it'll be tough for sure.
I hope they give him the time he needs. I hope they give Kubiak the time he needs, and finally, some patience to make shit work there.
Yeah, I think everybody can see that, they've got a ways to go, and Fernando Mendoza isn't going to solve all their problems, but, to be able to nail that quarterback pick, that's the most important thing. And I do think that he is a solid option. I mean, you really don't have many other alternatives in this draft. That's for sure. I mean, we can move on here and talk about some of these other guys, but yeah, I think that we need to temper our expectations. Fernando might need a year or two until he really starts to take off, but I think the talent's there.
And I mean, everybody just assumes if they're not ready to have that guy, that QB, if they need help somewhere else, why not trade the 101 to the Jets to get their pick for next year?
I think the Jets need a lot.
It's not happening, but I would love that.
Yeah.
If they could get the Jets to package in that pick next year, because damn well they're going to be top 3.
Yeah, they do it. That's why you get picks to do stuff like that. Yeah.
Just a thought. Anyway, move on.
Yeah, let's check on this next guy. The only guy that might warrant, some first round conversation. That's Ty Simpson out of Alabama. He's 23 years old, a junior coming out. 6'1", 211 pounds with 9 3/8-inch hands. He was a 5-star recruit, state champion out of Tennessee, and the second-ranked quarterback in the country in his draft class. And last year, he had a 64.5 completion percentage, 3,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, 5 picks. I have 287 sacks. That's not true. I think 20-something sacks is what I want to say. He had 93 rushing yards and a touchdown to go along with that. So at Alabama, he was behind Bryce Young and Jalen Milroe. But, the first half of this season, he was insane. He was having, people were talking about him being a legitimate Heisman contender. And then things just fell apart. In his final 6 games, he had a 57% completion percentage, averaging 158 yards passing, and he had 5 fumbles in that time. So he goes from knocking off Georgia, one of the premier defensive teams in the country, like a powerhouse team, to going up against Oklahoma and then just completely shitting the bed. It seemed like defensive coordinators were able to figure him out. So he really only has that 1 year of solid starting experience. And the first half looked great, but the second half, that's why teams are so apprehensive to say, okay, like, are we really going to waste a first round pick on this guy? I think that he has a lot of good traits, but that second half of the season is going to leave a lot of teams questioning if he's able to handle the workload for an entire NFL season.
Yeah, he's, in terms of the traits, I think you see a bit of everything. You see what he can be. I think he throws a really nice ball. I think it looks really good coming out of his hands. He's got a good enough arm talent to make every throw, and not just with velocity. Like he puts a little bit of air underneath it as well, and it's just like sails out. It's very nice to watch. Um, and what really drew me to him early in the season, because I was on board the hype train, obviously evaluating these quarterbacks really early as a Jets fan, but was calling audibles at the line of scrimmage as well. You rarely see that kind of thing from college quarterbacks, and that's kind of thing that obviously translates very well to the next level. And that's just after literally 1 year of starting, 13 games or whatever it was. Um, he flashes really good pocket movement as well, and his athleticism in general. I think a few times he's sort of stepped up in the pocket to avoid the outside pressure and make the throw, but just wasn't consistent enough. Obviously, you said the first half, second half thing, and that might be because defenses saw what he was about, got some tape on him, were able to combat against him. But I think just when the bigger games came and he was truly under pressure, he didn't really make good decisions, I would say. I think decision making in general was a bit off, and he got away with some things, but at the next level, they're just like boneheaded turnovers, and he needs to throw it away or take the sack rather than trying to run through everything. Um, and yeah, there was talk of him playing hurt as well, so maybe he got hurt in the second half of the season. But is that an excuse, or is that like another negative part of his profile? Like his size, he's 211 pounds. Is that constantly going to come up? Is he constantly going to be injured in the NFL, playing through it and not being at full capacity? Yeah, it's a difficult one, but I like his potential, but it's that the Anthony Richardson paradox of he needs more game reps and more game time, but he's going to be drafted in the first, maybe second round, and he's not going to get that game time. NFL offenses don't give you 2 or 3 years to reach your potential, and get those reps and improve as a player. If he does go in year one, he's going to have to perform now, or the team's going to move on from him and draft someone next year. It's difficult to see a team being patient with him. And I think he does need the patience. And he did prove that he could sort of learn by sitting, because he obviously sat 2 years at Alabama. But at a certain point, you need to get on the field and experience the intensity of the game and the speed of the play, and get your improvement in that way. And the last thing I'll say is there's another question of why is he in the draft? And he's in the draft because Alabama wanted to move on from him. They wanted to start Keelan Russell, who's a highly drafted, highly recruited guy. Ty Simpson himself was a highly recruited guy. Why couldn't he beat out Jalen Milroe or whatever? It's just a little bit of this is what Alabama thinks about him. So are we really going to give him a starting QB job in the NFL?
Mhm.
So what I'm reading is he was having a great season, and then uh, played in the against Oklahoma, and he something about the defense there figured out his tendencies, and from that point on, it was kind of a copy and paste of what to do to stop him by all the defenses. And he threw for 53% from that point on of the season, and had 5 straight games where he fumbled the ball. Um, Watching the highlights, I see. I just don't think he has the arm to be an NFL quarterback. There's a lot of like deep balls that his guy was, whether he's putting too much air under it or not, who knows? But his guy was wide open and he underthrew it, and kind of you can always tell when a receiver's running and all of a sudden he has to kind of stop and come back. You know, um, I don't think because of like the draft reports I was reading didn't say what those tendencies were that the defense figured out, but with the arm strength, it's pretty easy to figure out that you don't have to worry about them throwing deep. Um, that's one, but And yeah, he does, like you said, he does need to put some weight on. He's not going to probably needs about 20 pounds to be up there with, average size. But he's just going to run into injuries if he's going to be a starter. I see this guy as a third or fourth round pick who will go to a team to either mature into a starting QB or have a good career as a backup.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my thinking.
Yeah, and I agree too. I think that, he has the smarts to play the game. I mean, you see him going through his progressions. Ross mentioned you see him, motioning players, calling audibles off of what he sees. There's a lot of cases where he's manipulating safeties with his eyes to open up wide receivers, but it's that second half of the season that, a lot of NFL teams are going to be hung up on. You mentioned that he has that slider build. I don't worry about that too much because there are some smaller quarterbacks in the NFL currently starting, and they don't really seem to have that problem, but it is a valid concern nonetheless. When it comes to his arm, like I agree with Tyler, you see a lot of underthrows on his deep balls. He doesn't have that accuracy, doesn't have that juice. He does have some fastballs in the short game. He does have the ability to put some touch on it and kind of layer it in on the intermediate level, but the deep ball isn't there. That needs work. Yeah, with only 15 starts under your belt, are you really prepared to use a first round pick on a guy like that? I don't think so. I think he'll be, like probably second, third round, maybe later. I think he's a very smart quarterback that can help out a starter dissecting tape, which I do think has value. If he does have an opportunity to prove himself, I just think that he's going to be very low floor, a high completion percentage kind of guy. But he's not going to have that game breaker play, that deep shot that just, brings your team back into it. So, yeah, I mean, I like the player. I still think he's one of the better quarterbacks in this class, which isn't saying much because it's so top heavy with Fernando, but I just don't see him being an NFL starter. I think that he could be a solid backup, a very low floor option.
I would I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, but and I'm anticipating the Jets potentially drafting him. But if the Jets were to draft him, the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking at the Oklahoma game in the college football playoffs. They came back from 17-0 down to win the game, and that was one of his better games. And that was, like I said, the second time he's faced Oklahoma during that run where everyone's talking about how he had such a bad time. He was really good in that game. And he made a lot of throws, and he also was not helped by his receiving core. There, like Jeremy Bernard, I think dropped a
No run game
really
either.
bad one. It was a bad, it was an underthrow as well, but he really should have caught that. But yeah, in general, they just were not good receivers. They weren't helping him out as much as they should be. But yeah, the plus side is look at that game. That's what he can do. Obviously, there's a question of consistency, and that's what quarterbacking is. What can you do, and how often do you do it? If you can make all the throws in the world, Anthony Richardson, Joe Milton, whatever, because you've got that arm talent. But how often do you do it? You don't do it very often. That's not obviously being an NFL quarterback. So yeah, it's tough to evaluate him on one season. I would have loved to see him go back to college, but it didn't happen, and we need to evaluate him as he is now. And I disagree. I think he can be an NFL starter. I'd like to see him go somewhere where he's not starting straight away, like the Jets. Um, Obviously, the Rams are going to be like the prime spot for literally any quarterback because of the environment they've got there with Sean McVay and obviously the offense and the weapons. But being able to sit behind Matt Stafford for a year, maybe two, and then go into that very QB friendly environment, I think would do him very well. I can't see many other places taking him in the first round, maybe Pittsburgh, but I don't know what their plans for QB. There's a long way to go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, could he be a starter? Yes, but the thing is, if college defenses are figuring you out and they have a blueprint to stop a quarterback in college, the NFL is going to be able to do that after week one. And to your point, like he didn't really have a lot of help, no rushing attack either. The offensive line on Alabama
Yeah.
was not what it has been in past years, and he didn't really have receivers to help. I mean, they got smoked by Indiana. But yeah, I mean, We'll see. I mean, I agree. I think he needs to go and sit and learn a little bit. Um, but my concerns are, a lot of the things that are coachable. He's got that down. It's the physical tools that are more of a concern for me. So, yeah, I mean, he could be a starter, but we shall see. I still think he'll probably be like a second round, realistically, like third round or later. I think would be the best spot for him.
I think second round to the Jets. The Jets are. If that was my prediction, it would be second round to
You're
the Jets. I
hedging,
think
man.
that's where he's going to go.
You're scared to talk shit just in case the Jets take him.
I did really like him early in the season. I think I've posted that a couple of times as well. Like, I really did like him early in the season because of the potential, but the Jets don't have time for potential.
I
No.
heard the Jets are taking Carson Beck, so I'm gonna be happy to see your take on him.
Yeah, we'll get into him, but I could see him more as a Jet than Ty Simpson. We'll see.
Will kill me
But
soon.
let's move on here and talk about our third guy of the day. We've got Garrett Nussmeier coming out of LSU. He's 24 years old, senior coming out, and I feel like we're going to see that a lot more and more as we go in this NIL era. Quarterbacks and players in general are going to stay in college just because they're getting, $1 million deals just to play one season. Um, you know, Garrett Nussmeier, he stuck around LSU. For his entire career. He's 6'2", 203 pounds, and 9 1/8 inch hands. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, son of the NFL QB coach Doug Nussmeier. So he's got some NFL pedigree in a way. Coach's son, you like to see that. Usually, bodes well. They're typically a little bit smarter. They have a little bit of a leg up on the competition, but last year, not his not his best season. 67% completion, 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions with 15 sacks. Ultimately led to Brian Kelly getting fired. But the year before paints a little bit of a better picture for him. He was 64% completion, 4,052 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 picks with 16 sacks. And he also had minus 38 rushing. So he is a true pocket passer. If you look at his 2024 tape, I mean, you see the real Garrett Nussmeier. This is a guy who, a lot of people projected as being a potential first round pick going into the college football season because his season in 2024 was that spectacular. But what I found out was he had an abdominal injury that was misdiagnosed by the LSU staff. He tried to play through it. Ultimately, he got shut down, which is why he only had 1,900 yards. But now he's kind of back on the NFL's radar. He won MVP at the Senior Bowl. You guys know I love the Senior Bowl. I think that tells you a lot about players when they're, these NFL caliber guys are going head to head. So scouts are starting to be reminded, why he was in that 101 conversation. I think he's got a lot of really good physical tools, but he's got a slighter build, and also the injury history too is a bit of a concern. So, what do you think about Garrett Nussmeier, Ross?
Yeah, so he's like you said, he's a pocket passer. I think I really like his pocket movement and his footwork, and you can tell he's like a coach's son as well. Like I think his mechanics are really consistent, and also think he's got like a nice feel for pressure in the pocket. He drifts away from it to buy himself a little bit more time to make the throw, and he can step up as well and deliver it downfield, and he can take a hit as well, or he can take a hit and make the throw. I don't know if he survives it really with his small frame, but. Yeah, he's not a great athlete. I think he showed enough to escape pressure in the pocket. I think he does has like a little rollout move, and then he can throw on the run decently well as well. I think he sees the field really well. I think, plays with anticipation as well, and just like he knows where he needs to go with the ball. And I think that's the kind of thing that will really endear teams to him, especially if his sort of starting point is a backup. That's the kind of thing that will really, really endear himself to teams. But he's not really a toolsy guy. So you mentioned he's measurables. He's small, in height a little bit, but particularly in weight. And that's maybe why, again, why he got injured is because he can't take the hits and survive that. And um, when you get to the NFL and there's bigger guys hitting you, and that is one concern for me. The arm is decent. It's not like massive. And yeah, like I said, the athleticism just is not there. It's more like intentional pocket movement than scrambling and adding anything on the ground. So Yeah, I actually quite like him, and I think the 2025 tape was a bit better than advertised, like a bit better than the box score sees. He's another guy who was completely let down by his team. I don't know what was going on in LSU last year, but yeah, we talk about guys who are anticipating in 2026 and improving. He's another guy who like went the wrong way, but I don't think he was quite as bad as people make out to be. I still think there was a little bit there, and that gives me hope. That gives me hope that he can become maybe definitely a backup. I think he would be a backup for a long time. I think he can become a starter. Um, but yeah, not to a high level. But I think he can become a starter one day. I would say that. Just probably say it differently from you guys. What do you think? You think Tyler? Do you think he can become a starter in the NFL one day?
Oh, this guy. I mean, this guy was learning the three step and 5 step drop since he could walk. Like, he's learning how to play the position. So he's got the tools. He's got the arm. He can definitely, being a coach's son and everything. He's been, he probably read a playbook before he read a Berenstein's book. But yeah, this guy, he has all the tools you need. Um, I was reading like one thing is he's got to work on like his internal clock into when he's in the pocket. It's kind of like maybe because he's small and scared to get hurt that he kind of tends to rush things. Um, what they said Sam Darnold seen ghosts. Maybe he's got a little bit of that, but yeah, I think you guys said it all. Like he's got the talent, he's got the brains. Um, does need some fine tuning. So best bet would be to find a place like a maybe Pittsburgh or something like so Pittsburgh or of course the LA Rams. So, somewhere where he can sit behind somebody, assuming Pittsburgh brings back Rodgers, but sit behind somebody and learn the NFL game. You know, it's probably the best for him. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think he'd be
that
a starter.
I think that Rams destination is pretty interesting because he does remind me a little bit of Matt Stafford. Like you see the sidearms, the different angles that he can complete passes. I mean, when it comes to the physical tools as a thrower, he has them. Is he an elite deep ball thrower? No. Does he have the strongest arm? No. But he can absolutely rip a deep ball. He's got the touch at intermediate levels. He's got the fastball, a very quick release. Like as soon as he sees a boom, it's out, and it's a completion. So, as in terms of talent as a thrower, I think he has it. A lot of the issues I see with him are coachable. I do think that he tends to hold on to the ball a little bit too long if his primary read isn't there. That's when you can kind of get him off of that internal clock, like Tyler had mentioned. He takes some risks too. He'll try and force some balls in tight windows, which I think you can clean up when he gets to the NFL. Yeah, but like the slight build, it's another concern too. Like, can he take a beating, through a 17 game, possibly an 18 game season in a few years here? That's kind of the questions I have on him. The abdominal injury, I don't think that's, it's concerning, but I think it's more of a fluky type injury. Like, I don't recall hearing of anybody having like a repetitive abdominal injury, and it seems like he's good to go now. He proved it at the Senior Bowl. He did very, very well there. I like what I see on tape in 2024. The explanation behind the poor 2025 is it's understandable. I didn't watch a ton of LSU tape this year. I didn't watch a ton of games at all, so I can't really speak on where they went wrong as a team. But I think that he has that innate ability to play the quarterback position, and the negatives that I see on him can be coached out. So I do think that he has a better chance of developing into a starter, but again, probably a third round kind of guy. Just draft him, let him sit a couple of years, and see if he can develop into anything special.
Yeah, I was thinking somewhere like Green Bay, so somewhere who's got a starter, who need a backup. he goes there, he could be the new Malik Willis, where he gets in maybe a few games a year to prove what he's got when Jordan Love gets injured, and then
Mhm.
in 4 years' time he moves on to be a starter. That's somewhere I can see. I was thinking the Eagles as well. So that's somewhere where the QB looks settled just now, and they're maybe looking to draft a backup because Tanner McKee's moving on for them. But that could be a situation where if Jalen Hurts could go down really quickly, and then in 1 to 2 years' time, you're talking about Nussmeier coming in, and if he proves himself for half a season or something, then they keep him around. But yeah, I like that kind of idea for him as somewhere drafted, definitely as a backup, but with the chance to become a starter eventually.
Yeah, pretty straightforward prospect, I would say. Tyler,
Very
you got
sure.
anything else to add, or should we move on to Carson Beck?
Well, Ross just screwed over this whole podcast by mentioning the Green Bay Packers. So
And you've mentioned them twice now, so that's
every
it.
comment is going to be Green Bay Packers. I didn't mention them. When did I mention them?
Oh, yeah.
seconds ago
What's
you
the
didn't.
over-under on how many times you've mentioned the Jets so far? 5, 6?
Well, that's because
Exactly.
Ross
I've
is
not
here,
mentioned them once.
and nobody's going to talk shit about the Jets in the chat because nobody cares. So,
Well, it's just the three of us. We got nobody else in the chat.
no, I mean, yeah.
All right.
Moving
Let's
on.
move it on to Carson Beck then. Coming out of Miami, a transfer over from Georgia, but he's 23 years old, a senior coming out. Prototypical size, he's 6'5", 233 pounds with 10-inch hands. Those are some whopping hands, folks. High school state champion out of Jacksonville. He won Mr. Football in Florida. He's had a couple of stops, Georgia and Miami. Last year for Miami, he had 72% completion, 3,800 yards, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 18 sacks. One thing I should look at is if the playoff stats are included in this, because you see a lot higher numbers for guys who had, those playoff games, and especially with Fernando Mendoza in Miami, having an extra 2 games compared to some of these other guys. That's something to look at. But pretty solid season. 43 yards rushing last year to go along with that, so nothing special with the legs. But 2024 with Georgia, 64% completion. He had 3,400 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. I saw he had 0 sacks for Georgia in 2024, which is crazy if that's true. And then 2023, he also started 72% completion, 3,900 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So this guy has over 10,000 yards between 3 seasons starting. He started 35 games in college. He's got that prototypical size. He has some good physical tools too. The real thing kind of, I think, affecting his draft stock is after that 2024 season with Georgia, he had UCL surgery on his throwing elbow. A lot of people think that has impacted his, the zip that he can put on the ball, the deep ball, like the arm strength, I guess. Obviously bringing Miami to the national championship, that is a feather in his cap. I think he proved a lot of the haters, the doubters wrong in a lot of ways, but there is kind of still that concern about the elbow. What did you guys think about Carson Beck when you were looking into him?
I fucking hate him. I hate him. I don't see any point in drafting him, to be perfectly honest. Like you mentioned all these stats about he's highly recruited and he played for really good teams, got a lot of wins, put up a lot of yardage, and the box score sounds amazing. But really don't let that fool you into thinking he's close to being an NFL level starter. Like he has no athleticism whatsoever. He doesn't really have a great arm, and potentially maybe because of that surgery, but he can't make any throws down the field. He's got a very low average depth of target, and he's relying a lot on his receivers to do a lot of the work. Malachi Tony from Miami was just amazing. You would throw him behind the line of scrimmage, you'd get 15 yards every single time. And when he does try to push the ball down the field, he's often like thrown into harm's way. His accuracy is really, really poor. He's so inconsistent on the deeper balls. And I've got some average depth of target stats as well. His average depth of target was 7.31 compared to Mendoza and Simpson, who are 9.4 and 8.8. So that's like it's more than 2 yards lower than Fernando Mendoza, despite putting up 3,800 yards. He's coddled in the offense in terms of he's got a great run game, he's got a really good defense, and he's got a really good offensive line as well. So he doesn't come under much pressure. But when he does come under pressure, when he does have to challenge down the field, then that's when you see it begin to unravel a bit for me. And I think I've seen some people make the argument that he could be a game manager at the next level because that's basically what he was doing in college. But I don't think you can do that if you don't have the ability to throw down the field because teams are just going to push up, they're going to load the box, they're going to sit on every route because you just can't challenge them with his physical limitations. And I don't really see what else he brings to the table that would make me, as an NFL GM, stand on the table and say, I want that guy. You know what I mean? I don't really know what he would bring. I would go elsewhere. Like even as like a 5th, 6th round pick, what is he going to bring to my team? That's me.
Yeah. All I can say about Carson Beck is the guy's a winner. So
That means he's not very good at football when you say stuff like that.
he is he's kind of like the most talked about college game manager there is. But he's definitely not a game changer. He is a game manager. I don't know. I could see what you're saying about the throws, but he also, he didn't make the playbook. I don't know. I kind of like them, and I hope he finds an appropriate landing spot. I think with Simpson and Nussmeier and Beck, they're all in the same situation where they need to find the best place to groom their abilities in the NFL, and none of them are gonna pop in and become day one starter. I mean, that's just my take on it, but I think Beck's got the swag to lead a team. He's been a winner everywhere he goes, So I'm not a hater like Ross, so.
But he's not a winner because the championships, the rings that he has with Georgia, he was not the starter. Georgia didn't do shit when he was the starter.
You just said it. You just said it on the last guy, on Nussmeier. You said backup quarterbacks mean something.
Yeah, but to Ross's point, I don't think he is a backup quarterback. I think there's a big tier break between Ty Simpson and Nussmeier going down to Carson Beck, and it really comes down to like the maturity thing for me. Like, I feel like he is a guy who is just in it for the money and he doesn't even love football. He is just going to go wherever the biggest NIL deal is. And he stayed in college as long as he possibly could. Like he's a solid college quarterback. Like he has some tools that, make him worthy of being considered an NFL draft pick. But after the surgery, I think that the arm talent has fallen off. And to have his back in a couple of ways, I think that, for him to bounce back from that elbow surgery and lead Miami to the national championship is impressive. I thought that he was a little bit better in his decision-making this year as well. But I also feel like he took less risks. And then when it was nut-cutting time and he had to stage a game-winning drive to beat Indiana, he threw an interception on right out of the timeout. So I don't really see it with him. I think that he just wants to get drafted to get, really his last football paycheck. And I think that'll be selling insurance in 2027 is what I really think it'll come down to.
Well,
he's all about the flashy Lamborghinis. He'll throw teammates under the bus in press conferences. I mean, Georgia fans hate him. I went on Georgia's Reddit and looked at him. They cannot stand the guy. They were happy he was gone. And it's kind of to Ross's point about Ty Simpson. Georgia was ready to move on from him. Miami picked him up because they lost Cam Ward. And, in the transfer portal, you don't have a ton of options. It worked out well. But is he going to be a guy to actually lead an NFL franchise? I don't see it. Like, I like having a guy with a little bit of cockiness, but there's a fine line between being cocky and just being a dick, and I think that he's a dick.
You can't be
Well,
cocky as a backup quarterback as well. And he's
No.
going to be a late draft pick. He's going to be around 5 to 7. That's non-negotiable. I think that's definitely the case. And you can't be cocky as a backup quarterback. That's what happens
Yeah.
with Shedeur Sanders.
but I mean, you just said it. Is he misunderstood like Shooter Sanders? Because wouldn't you say?
Misunderstood genius.
I mean, I know Corbin thinks that Shooter Sanders is misunderstood.
Shador wasn't out in public being like that though. Like from what I had heard, and who knows, is that he was acting very entitled in his interviews, which is why he fell down the draft boards. But with Carson Beck, it's like all out there in the public. Like you could talk to his coaches, you could talk to his teammates at Georgia, and I'm pretty sure no one's going to give him a ringing endorsement. Maybe at Miami, it's a little bit different. Maybe he got humbled a little bit. Like there are some good positives about him. Like he had some pretty clutch moments. He's won some big games for Georgia and for Miami. He's shown some improvements and his decision making skills, but I think that his arm talent has regressed a bit, and it's not going to make it any easier for him.
Well, as for that, there's a lot of belief with any sort of surgery on any leg, arm. It takes a full year to recover the muscle back from that injury. Even though a guy's back and healed, a lot of people feel like with athletes it takes a full year to get that completely back. So he could have been dealing with some stuff, some weak arm all year, and in 2026 all of a sudden have his arm back. But
well, he sat out all spring, and until I don't know if it was exactly a year, but it's Tommy John. And like players don't always come back from Tommy John. Like, I mean, you see it more in baseball, but with quarterbacks too, like I haven't heard about it affecting them as much, but it definitely affects your ability to throw, and some guys just never get it back.
No, I know that for sure. But I mean,
I think he's hit his ceiling as well. Like I don't really see much more development, much more improvement that could be made. That's
I
why
think you've hit
in
your
rounds
ceiling.
5 to 7, I'd go somewhere else, like somewhere who has room to develop than a guy who's hit his ceiling.
I'm the only one who hit my ceiling with a hammer.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the size. He's a good-looking dude. He makes headlines in his Lamborghini, dating the Cavinder twins or whoever the hell those two are. That's who he is. He's not a guy that's actually going to bring you success in the NFL. That's just how I see it. Like, I feel pretty damn confident about that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a fine line, and I feel like he's just, not mature, and he's going to be an insurance in a year.
But if he's such a dick, who's buying insurance from him?
I don't know. Maybe just go to Miami. That's all he's got.
Maybe he's a car salesman.
Yeah, cars. Yeah, maybe. I could be wrong about that. His exact job title in 2027, that's up for debate, but I would put my money on it being anything other than an NFL quarterback.
I think his job title is going to be QB for the Cleveland Browns in their QB room.
Yeah.
And him and Shedeur are going to be yakking it up together as they watch Deshaun Watson take the #1 job back.
Yeah, 4 more QBs in Cleveland. Deshaun, Shedeur, Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, why don't we just throw Carson Beck in the mix too?
Might as well.
Yeah.
That'd be a fun.
All right, guys. Well, we're a little bit over an hour here. So to wrap it up, let's go through and rank these 4 guys we discussed, and then we can each give a quick sleeper for this quarterback class. So, Ross, why don't you kick it off with your rankings?
Pretty straightforward. Mendoza, then Simpson, Nussmeier. But I think Nussmeier and Simpson's probably a bit closer. I definitely think they're different players. It depends what you're after in terms of an NFL franchise. Do you want the guy who's got higher ceiling, more potential, or do you want the guy with a higher floor who could develop in a starter? So yeah, I'd say it's closer than I initially thought. So yeah.
Okay. What about you, Tyler?
No, you go first.
Okay. Well, my rankings are right now sitting the same as Ross. Mendoza won for sure. I go back and forth with Nussmeier and Simpson because I do think that Nussmeier's, negatives are coachable. I like his arm talent better. I love his 2024 tape. Yeah, let's be a little spicy here. I'm going to do Mendoza, Nussmeier, Simpson, and then Carson Beck. There's a pretty big tier break there. But like Ross said, I think that Simpson and Nussmeier are pretty neck and neck. Just kind of a pick your poison type deal. I'm interested to see where they get drafted, obviously.
Yep.
I think that'll have a big impact. But yeah, just looking at them as prospects, we'll go Nuss over Simpson.
I like it.
Yeah. I don't know. I really liked Beck.
You're allowed to like Beck. We
But,
Yeah, you
could
can go
go
ahead.
wrong.
Put your stamp
No.
on it. You could look like a fucking genius next year, Tyler.
Yeah. I just kind of feel like all three guys are the same. So really, I think they all are in the same situation. But yeah, I'm gonna go Mendoza, Beck, Nussmeier, and Simpson. Just because Simpson's gonna be a Jet, so he has to be last.
That's why
Yeah,
I put him
that's
second.
That's fair. All right. And I guarantee you, Ross and I are just going to be sitting here next year looking like total dumbasses. Tyler's right again. Somehow he always squeaks one out, something like this. But let's get into sleepers here. Anybody want to kick it off? I've got a guy I can get into if you guys aren't ready.
I've got a guy as well, and I'm actually upset that we're doing this a day later because I would have looked really, really good if we did it yesterday. My guy is Taylon Green out of
Yep.
Arkansas. 6'6", 227 pounds official combine measurements. 4-year starter, so 2 at Boise State and 2 at Arkansas. And he's tall, he's got a big arm, and he's an explosive runner. Like we've seen the combine performance. I actually don't have the official numbers, but it's 4.36 or 4.37 or something. He ran in the 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
Incredible vertical jump, incredible broad jump as well. He's like a 9.99 RAS, relative athletic score, which we tend to use in this show as well. But before the combine, like you can see it on tape, you can see when he's in the open field, he's a long strider. He looks like a sprinter, covers ground so fast. He just looks effortless. He's gliding out there. No one can catch him in the open field. In terms of his stats on that, he was an almost 800-yard rusher last season, had 8 touchdowns, and he's had 35 rushing touchdowns over the last 4 years as a starter as well. As a passer, I think he's got a good arm. He can be quite inaccurate. He is inconsistent, so that's why we're not talking about him as a early round pick. He's going to be maybe rounds 5 to 7, maybe pushing to the 4th round based on his combine. But because he's so tall, he's got a high release point, so some of those deep, intermediate, middle of the field throws over linebackers are easy. And he's got decent pocket movement as well. Sometimes his decision making can lead to huge sacks, and he can drop very deep. And if he can't get away from the rush, then it's a very deep sack. And I think his processing can also be inconsistent as well. Like seeing a couple of throws, I call them Tua interceptions, where he sees a wide receiver winning on the route from like left to right, but he doesn't see the linebacker literally just waiting on the right hand side. It's like he doesn't have the peripheral vision to see the linebacker coming in from the right hand side. But all in all, I think when we're talking about QBs in these late rounds, you want something to hang your hat on. You want some tools. You want something that's intriguing. And for me, the athleticism is really what you want. And you could get him as a backup, and you can put some packages in for him, and you can learn to develop. And maybe he turns out to be a decent enough passer that you can get him on the field as a starter one day.
Yeah, and before you go, Tyler, I also had Taylon Green. I mean, Ross, I think you did a great job at covering exactly why he's such a mouth-watering prospect. I mean, the athleticism is off the charts. He was a high school triple jump phenom. I saw that he was clocked at 23 miles an hour on GPS. So the guy's an athletic freak. Even if quarterback doesn't work out for him, he has the versatility to play wide receiver, for example, which is another very tantalizing prospect. But yeah, I mean, he came over from Boise State. He was doing it there. Now he's doing it in SEC competition. I just think that consistency is the biggest issue because he's got the highlight reel that'll make you think, oh my God, this guy is a first round talent. But a lot of the, the negatives about him are fairly coachable, decision making. I think that he really just kind of has one speed on his balls. He doesn't have that touch quite there. So I think he's a developmental guy, but the physical tools are all there. Definitely worth a late round flyer on Taylen Green out of Arkansas. Do you have him too, Tyler?
Is that who you're taking, Taylen Green?
Yeah, I had Taylen Green also.
Okay. Now, I don't know if this is cheap or not, being a sleeper, but I mean, I kind of had two guys, and if you guys tell me that Drew Eller is a cheat, then I won't take him.
Oh, it's not a cheat.
I have another guy, but
No,
yeah.
you're good.
I really like Drew Eller. I mean, what he did last year, this year, I was reading reports about how he probably goes in the top of the draft last year if he comes out. And then everybody said, well, you need one more year of college. And so he went back and, suffered a lower body injury, like I believe it was a broken foot or something.
Ankle, yeah.
Yeah, ankle. But the guy, he can really throw the ball, and he's got your prototypical size for your QB. He's got the strength. He's got to release. He's got the Matthew Stafford arm angle down, and yeah, maybe it's a cheat or a sleeper, but I really like him, and it was hard to pick a sleeper this year because it's kind of such a shitty class. So, but I'm going with Drew. So
yeah, I think it's a solid pick. I definitely considered him. He just had a great combine. It seems like he's healthy and back at it. Another guy who was in that first overall conversation to start the year. Yeah, I think, the biggest knock on him are the interception numbers, some of the decision-making things, but pretty coachable. So it's a solid sleeper. I considered it myself.
Yeah, and not to shit on everyone you like, Tyler, but I'm not a big fan of Drew Aller. I just think he wows with the physical stuff. Obviously, he's got the size and he's theoretically got a big arm, but it doesn't mean shit if you can't really do anything with it, in my opinion. So I see him as a Joe Milton kind of guy who's he's got all the talent, but can't really.
That was
direct it
a
in the right way.
comp to him. Yeah, Joe Milton. I love Joe Milton. So, hey, let me ask you, what are your feelings on Haynes King? Do you hate
Haynes
him?
King?
I think he's got a role. He can have a role. Obviously, he's going to be a late round pick. I think he can carve out a nice role in the NFL as like a Russian quarterback. I think he can make some
Yeah.
throws as well. I really think he's a better pick for me than someone like Drew Aller, who's you. Drew Aller's like a starting QB only, but Haynes King can be in packages. He can be a Taysom Hill kind of guy.
Yeah, Taysom Hill. Yes. Because that was the other guy I was gonna take, and I just like his bulldog mentality. That was all I had.
I think Aller's got a better shot than Haynes King.
Oh, for
I
sure.
don't think he's just a total statue back there. But yeah, honestly, Haynes King was not even on my radar to put on here. And I don't even know if he's going to get drafted. So
Right.
I don't think he will.
yeah, I'm sick of taking these tough shots. I need one of these guys to finally work out, and hopefully that's Taylen Green. See if Ross goes for 2 the last 2 years. Right.
Just copying Ross is a good strategy for you.
Sure.
So there you go.
Well, hey, I offered to go
Problem is I won't
first
get
to
him.
get ahead of it, but Ross was like, "Nope, I got it."
I won't get him in the rookie draft. That's a problem. Like I like these guys, but then suddenly other
I like
people like him too. Corbin's going to take him before me in rookie draft.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it, like landing spot is huge, and we don't know that yet. Draft stock, the capital that goes into it. I mean, it's like with Shador. It is a big swing. And when I was pretty shocked to see him fall all the way to the 5th round, and then I never drafted him. I was like, okay, Jackson Dart's my guy. That was a great decision. So a lot of things can change, especially so for the quarterback position. It's the hardest position to evaluate, no doubt. You try and take out some key things. Like for me, I focus on the physical tools and hope that there's coachable things that can be improved. But there's some little variable, this X factor that, even the professional scouts can't identify to determine whether a guy is going to boom or bust. So, yeah, it really is a crapshoot. But, I feel like Mendoza is the one guy that you can, say pretty certainly he's going to have a fair NFL career. And then the other guys, it's just, cross your fingers, hope and pray, see what happens.
Imagine having the name Joe Fagnano. Poor kid.
Yeah. Fagnano.
I missed the combine yesterday, so I actually haven't seen.
Is it definitely pronounced Fagnano? I would.
I don't know. I haven't heard it. Oh,
he's reading that for sure.
Huh?
No, you were just reading that off, looking for a little chuckle.
Yeah, why is it said a different way?
I don't know.
Fagnano? I don't know what it is.
Oh,
it's Italian. Fagnano.
Exactly, yeah. He's a new Tommy DeVito.
It's like Fajoule.
I'm just watching the thing now, and
Fagiano.
It's funny. All these guys are going, and like Drew Aller's going right now. Good looking kid, just zips the ball in there. And then Carson Beck went. I don't know how he's cocky because he's ugly as fuck, but he zipped it in there. But then it gets to Haynes, and his throws look like a high school kid. It's just like, what? Yeah. But he's my bulldog.
All right. Well, hang your head on that one, Tyler. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, I'm glad we got this one out of the way with. What do we have next week, guys? Little sneak peek for the listeners. Next week, we're going to be covering the linebacker class. We've got some good ones to talk about for sure. We might have to narrow down our list a little bit here. We might be having a long podcast. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.